In just the past month, the Justice Department has successfully prosecuted the CEOs of two of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges in two separate criminal cases. The message here should be clear. Using new technology to break the law does not make you a disruptor. It makes you a criminal. This Justice Department has no tolerance for crimes that threaten our economic institutions and undermine public trust in the fairness of those institutions. And we will hold accountable the individuals who commit and profit from them.
Well, did you have a feeling they might have been gaslighting you in that statement, saying if you're a criminal, they're coming after you? I think they forgot a few. Not condoning anything from CZ and Binance, just want to make sure that we're being consistent and also holding the whole fiat army out there trying to create a spectacle and look all tough accountable. But hey, major news, $4 billion fine against Binance shitcoin casino. Did Larry Fink take down Binance and CZ to get the spot Bitcoin ETF green light? Yeah, probably. But hey, we got a lot to cover. Let's get it.
Binance has agreed to plead guilty to willfully violating the Bank Secrecy Act, knowingly failing to register as a money transmitting business, and willfully violating the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. These laws ensure that our financial institutions are not available to designated terrorist organizations, drug traffickers, and sanctioned nation states that threaten public safety and our national security. The Justice Department is requiring Binance to pay $4.3 billion in penalties and forfeitures. This is one of the largest penalties we have ever obtained from a corporate defendant in a criminal matter.
Let's get cracking. This is what we all want to know. Is Binance's $4 billion settlement the green light for the spot Bitcoin ETF? Well, going back, I think we remember the SEC had cited market manipulation when denying spot Bitcoin ETFs, and Binance's market dominance had to take a hit before the spot ETF application could be approved. That was according to a June post by Travis Kling, Chief Investment Officer of Ikigai Asset Management. Quote, "There is no chance, zero, that this ETF is approved with Binance in its current position of market dominance. If it's going to be approved, Binance is either gone entirely or their role in price discovery is massively diminished." Go ahead and check that off the board. Now, of course, that prediction had to spark others to consider how closely BlackRock was working with the U.S. government in order to obtain a favorable position in the spot Bitcoin ETF market. YouTuber Colin Talks Shitcoin said it was suspect that Binance's settlement happened right before a Bitcoin ETF comes out. Is it a way for BlackRock to acquire a massive amount of Bitcoin for cheap? Well, if that was their intention, it definitely backfired because Bitcoin just went up to 38K and didn't give a shit about the Binance news. But hey, is it a way to remove competition from the U.S. markets right before the ETFs go live? Bingo! Also important to note that BlackRock and its rival Vanguard together own 11.5% of Binance's top competitor Coinbase, and speculated the action against Binance may have been planned. BlackRock met with the SEC on November 20th and presented how it could use an in-kind or in-cash redemption model for its spot Bitcoin ETF, the iShares Bitcoin Trust. Then, of course, not to be outdone, Grayscale also met with the regulator on the same day, discussing its bid to list a spot Bitcoin ETF. Fidelity, Wisdom Tree, Invesco, Galaxy, Valkyrie, VanEck, and Bitwise also await the SEC's approval of their spot Bitcoin funds. But hey, while the fiat army's out there to go look tough and things, this is part of the process of Bitcoin becoming that global store of value. And them trying to regulate it is just part of the process. They're going to fail when it comes to Bitcoin. But when you hear all those large names, those major macro hedge funds, huge major companies in the space, like 20-some trillion in assets under management, this is a big deal. And it's showing that Bitcoin's quote-unquote maturing, all right? And now that 27 trillion through an ETF will have a means to go get after it without having to deal with self-custody and things of that nature, which is why, us don't use a spot Bitcoin ETF. Take self-custody, hold your own Bitcoin. That's a paper claim on Bitcoin. That's Larry Fink's Bitcoin. But for those major big companies that need a way to get exposure, it may work for them, and it's still going to be majorly bullish. And this is, as Nat Brunell said, Bitcoin being recognized as a dominant global macro asset.
Joining us now, Coin Stories podcast host and Bitcoin educator, Natalie Brunell. So Natalie, we've seen a lot of bad PR, of course, for crypto of late. You had SBF get the guilty verdict. We saw Binance earlier this week plead guilty to money laundering. But those are exchanges, right? That's not cryptocurrency. So I'm curious, what's your take on why we're seeing Bitcoin rise recently and where are the opportunities going forward?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I think that Bitcoin is finally being recognized as a dominant global macro asset, an asset with no issuer, with absolute scarcity. And I think it's performing beautifully amid sort of the chaos of the other markets, because look, in the last year, we've seen U.S. banking failures, the government running massive deficits and ballooning the debt, the bond market in turmoil. We had obviously the crypto actions that you mentioned that show that Bitcoin is very different and special. We're seeing legacy firms filing spot Bitcoin ETF applications and legendary investors changing their tune. So a lot of tailwinds for Bitcoin over the last year. And I think people are just realizing that Bitcoin is not just the best way to store wealth over the long run, especially when you zoom out, but we have an opportunity now to have a form of money backed by energy that no one can control or manipulate, with unlimited velocity and instant settlement without relying on credit. This is a system we can opt into based on value and ownership instead of theft through inflation.
Now, when it comes to hyper-Bitcoinization or hyperinflation, they kind of go hand in hand, but they happen gradually then suddenly, because hyperinflation, I like to describe it as a vase with cracks in it. Over time, that pressure is going to build up. And yes, it all goes back to WTF happened in 1971. We can go back to 1913 for sure, because that gave them the means to go off the gold standard before World War I and again in World War II. 71 just made them officially fiat, not just when it was convenient. But the big straw that broke the camel's back was the stim-useless injection in 2008, which started the Weimar cycle, which is why these things keep happening. And you heard it from Lavish and the others, this description of the contracting cycles of injection and inflation, and the effect of QE diminishes over time, also requires much more of a dose, like a heroin addict. But when that comes, don't wait for suddenly. The lifeboat's right there. Get on board. And hey, if you need help getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, taking self-custody, taking your setup to the next level, we got just the guys to get you covered. Guys, Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way. And if you want to take self-custody, get your Bitcoin off those exchanges, well, as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. What's more, they've recently introduced 100% privacy-focused collaborative custody services, where you'll benefit from advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more, while remaining 100% in control. Looking to get started or take your Bitcoin setup to the next level? Book a free 30-minute call using that link below. I don't know if you guys have heard Larry Fink much lately, but it seems the world is totally waking up to the fact that there's Bitcoin and there's shitcoins.
So exposure. Really? Yes. I'm encouraged by how many people are focusing on it. I'm encouraged about the narrative, but I don't believe we should think about crypto as a substitute of currency. But I am fascinated by it as an asset class.
Specifically on Bitcoin, we're a believer in digitization of products, and we do believe it could revolutionize finance. It's digitizing gold in many ways as a hedge against inflation, a hedge against the devaluation of your currency. Bitcoin is an international asset, and so it can represent an asset that people can play as an alternative. The foundation of BlackRock is...
I mean, take a look right there. CNBC now joins Washington Post and Wall Street Journal in differentiating Bitcoin from crypto. This is a major step. The Bitcoin not crypto narrative continues to build, and likely people behind it have interest due to their investments. Probably BlackRock, who controls 70 to 80% of the media. Did Bitcoin just defeat the media by proxy? Maybe. And some bullish news here from Samson Mao, the Jan 3 bring a nation state adoption. He was talking to a pension fund manager. He said it's risky to not be invested in Bitcoin. Things are changing. I love this comment. Which country was it? Well, he can neither confirm nor deny. Maybe it was both, but a lot of people are waking up to this. We had an episode with Dom Bay. We know what happened in Europe with pensions, how they've been gambling people's retirements away. You know, there's a pretty easy way to just save in Bitcoin and build your own future and not have to rely on third parties. Just sound money doing its thing. So it looks like TikTok to the Bitcoin ETF approval. Things are looking very bullish, even though the fiat army is out there to try to scare you. This is part of the process, and Bitcoin stays one winning. Hey guys, be sure to like, subscribe, share the Sound Money Gospel, follow us on Twitter where we're getting all the latest and breaking news, set those notifications, and we will be your guide through the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. Hey, and stay tuned. We got some very bullish mathematics showing what could happen once the Bitcoin ETF goes live. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And if you missed some of the recent news, be sure to check these out. Hope you had a great weekend, a great Thanksgiving. Catch you all soon. Until next time, peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.